Have you ever witnessed someone doing something extraordinary when no one expected it? Today's story takes place in a busy shopping district where a martial arts legend proves that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they just need a mop. Handle. Comment where you're watching from today, and let's dive into this incredible story. It was a seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon in downtown Los Angeles. The sun cast long shadows across the crowded sidewalks as shoppers moved between high-end boutiques and casual cafes. The atmosphere buzzed with conversation, the occasional honk of traffic, and street musicians playing for spare change. Among the sea of faces was a man who, despite his fame, often preferred to blend in with crowds. Jackie Chan, the martial arts legend and global film star, walked casually through the shopping district, wearing simple jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He wasn't there for autographs or photo opportunities, just enjoying a rare moment of peace between film projects. Jackie had just finished lunch at a small noodle shop tucked between designer stores. The humble restaurant reminded him of places he'd frequent in Hong Kong, and he appreciated the authenticity of their recipes. Now, with a satisfied appetite, he was simply taking in the sights, occasionally stopping to examine items in shop windows. Several yards ahead, Maria Hernandez, a young mother of two, was shopping for her daughter's birthday present. Her purse hung from her shoulder, a gift from her husband, containing not just her wallet and phone, but irreplaceable family photos and a locket passed down from her grandmother. Maria was focused on a display of children's toys, contemplating which would bring the biggest smile to her little girl's face. What neither Maria nor Jackie noticed was Kevin Smith, a man whose desperate circumstances had led him to make increasingly poor decisions. Recently fired from his third job this year, facing eviction and with mounting debts, Kevin had convinced himself that a quick snatch and grab was his only option. He'd been watching Maria for several minutes, noting how her attention was completely absorbed by the store displays. A street cleaner named Alan Maldonado was working nearby, pushing his cart of supplies as he swept debris from the sidewalk. His mop handle stuck out from the cart at an angle, swaying slightly with each step. Alan had been working this same route for nearly 15 years, becoming almost invisible to the regular shoppers who passed him daily. Jackie paused to look at a display of martial arts books in a bookstore window, smiling at the irony of seeing his own autobiography prominently featured. He was about to move on when something caught his attention in the reflection of the glass, a subtle shift in body language from someone in the crowd behind him. Years of training and choreographed fight scenes had made Jackie exceptionally attuned to human movement. Kevin Smith began moving with purpose, his eyes fixed on Maria's purse as he calculated the perfect moment to strike. His fingers twitched at his sides and his breathing quickened. The crowd provided both cover and obstacles as he navigated toward his target, unaware that his movements had already betrayed his intentions to a trained observer. Jackie turned slowly, maintaining a casual demeanor while scanning the crowd. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something about the man's focused intensity and direct path toward the unsuspecting woman triggered his instincts. Without drawing attention to himself, Jackie began moving in the same direction, keeping pace while maintaining distance. As Maria turned to enter the toy store, Kevin accelerated. In one swift motion, he grabbed the purse strap and yanked it from her shoulder. Maria screamed in surprise and pain as the strap cut across her skin before giving way. For a moment, the busy street seemed to freeze as heads turned toward the commotion. "My purse! Someone stop him!" Maria cried out, her voice cracking with panic and disbelief. Kevin clutched the purse to his chest and began pushing through the startled crowd, shoving people aside as he created an escape route. Most bystanders stepped back in confusion or fear, unwilling to intervene against the desperate thief. A few reached for their phones to call the authorities, but by then Kevin would be long gone. Jackie didn't hesitate. In the split second it took others to register what was happening, he was already moving. His eyes darted around for anything that might help, and they landed on Alan's cleaning cart just a few feet away. With a silent apology to the startled street cleaner, Jackie reached out and smoothly extracted the wooden mop handle from the cart. "Yeah, I'll bring it right back," he said to the confused Alan, who barely had time to register what was happening before Jackie was moving again. The crowd parted instinctively for Jackie, something in his determined stride warning them to make way. Despite being in his 60s, Jackie moved with the fluidity and purpose of someone half his age. Decades of training had made efficient movement second nature. Kevin glanced back, expecting to see only the distressed victim and perhaps a few concerned but ultimately inactive bystanders. Instead, he locked eyes with Jackie Chan, who was rapidly closing the distance between them, a wooden mop handle gripped purposefully in his hands. For a moment, confusion crossed Kevin's face. Not quite recognition, just the sudden realization that someone was actually pursuing him. "Stop right there!" Jackie called out, his voice carrying authority despite his attempt to remain low-key. Instead of complying, Kevin's panic rose. He veered suddenly, knocking over a display of sunglasses from a street vendor's table, hoping to create an obstacle. The vendor, Daniel Jackson, shouted in anger as his merchandise scattered across the sidewalk. Jackie vaulted over the fallen display with a fluid motion that seemed to defy his age, landing with precision and continuing the pursuit without losing momentum. A few onlookers began to recognize the famous actor, and murmurs spread through the crowd as phones were raised to capture what was unfolding. "Is that Jackie Chan? Oh my God, I think it is. He's going after that purse snatcher," Kevin heard. The commotion behind him and the mention of the name sent a chill down his spine. Now he understood why the man pursuing him moved with such confidence and skill. Desperation drove Kevin to run faster, darting between pedestrians and looking for any escape route. Ahead lay a narrow alley between buildings, a shortcut Kevin had used before. He pivoted sharply and sprinted toward it, believing he could lose his pursuer in the maze of service entrances and dumpsters. Jackie anticipated the move and took a parallel route, his familiarity with urban environments from countless film shoots giving him an advantage. As Kevin entered the alley, breathing heavily and clutching the stolen purse, he risked another glance backward. Not seeing Jackie immediately behind him, he slowed slightly, thinking he'd managed to escape. That moment of relief was shattered when Jackie emerged from behind a dumpster, blocking the path ahead. "That doesn't belong to you," Jackie said calmly, holding the mop handle horizontally across his body. His posture was relaxed but ready, a stance familiar to anyone who had watched his films. Kevin froze, trapped between Jackie and the alley entrance where curious onlookers now gathered. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble," he said, backing up slowly. "Then return the purse," Jackie replied, his voice firm but not angry. "Everyone makes mistakes. This one doesn't have to define you." For a moment, it seemed like Kevin might comply. His shoulders slumped slightly, and he looked down at the purse in his hands. Then, with sudden renewed desperation, he charged forward, attempting to push past Jackie. With a movement so fluid it appeared almost effortless, Jackie sidestepped the charge while extending the mop handle at ankle height. Kevin tripped and stumbled forward, losing his balance. Before he could fall completely, Jackie caught his arm, simultaneously relieving him of the purse and guiding him to a controlled landing against the alley wall. Kevin found himself sitting on the ground, dazed but unhurt, while Jackie stood calmly holding both the purse and the mop handle. The entire sequence had taken less than 3 seconds and happened with such precision that onlookers weren't sure exactly what they'd witnessed. "I told you, no trouble necessary," Jackie said, a hint of a smile crossing his face. By now, the alley entrance was crowded with spectators, many recording with their phones. Among them was Officer Stephanie Rivera, who had been patrolling nearby when she heard the commotion. She pushed through the gathering crowd, hand resting cautiously on her holster. "What's going on here?" she demanded, taking in the scene before her. Maria Hernandez broke through the crowd, breathless from running after the commotion. "He stole my purse," she said, pointing at Kevin, who remained seated against the wall, looking defeated. Officer Rivera moved to detain Kevin, who offered no resistance as she secured his hands behind his back. "You're under arrest for theft," she stated professionally while reading him his rights. Jackie handed the purse back to Maria, who clutched it to her chest with tears of relief in her eyes. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Everything I need is in here, my children's photos, my ID, everything." Jackie nodded modestly. "I'm glad I could help," he said, trying to downplay his involvement, but it was too late for anonymity. The crowd had recognized him, and excited murmurs spread as people pushed forward, phones recording every moment. What had begun as a simple afternoon walk had transformed into a spectacle that would soon spread across social media. Thomas Hayes, a local news blogger who happened to be getting coffee nearby, pushed to the front of the crowd. "Mr. Chan, that was incredible. Would you mind telling us what happened?" he asked, holding up his phone to record. Jackie, ever humble, shook his head. "Nothing special. Someone needed help, that's all." He tried to step back from the gathering crowd, uncomfortable with being the center of attention for something he considered a simple act of civic responsibility. Officer Rivera, having secured Kevin in her patrol car with the assistance of her partner, returned to take statements. "Mr. Chan, we'll need you to come to the station to provide a formal statement," she said professionally, though even she couldn't completely hide her admiration. "Of course," Jackie agreed. He turned to Alan Maldonado, who had followed the commotion, and now stood at the edge of the crowd, looking bewildered at the scene. Jackie handed him back the mop handle with a respectful bow. "Thank you for the loan. Your cleaning equipment makes an excellent tool for justice." Alan accepted the mop handle with a stunned expression. "No problem," he managed, still processing that his ordinary work tool had just been used in an extraordinary way by Jackie Chan himself. As the excitement began to settle, Maria approached Jackie again, this time more composed. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "Most people would have just watched or maybe called the police. You actually did something." Jackie's response was characteristic of his philosophy. "We all have a responsibility to help each other when we can. It doesn't take special skills, just willingness." What Jackie didn't realize was that one of the bystanders, Ashley Turner, had captured the entire sequence on her phone, from the moment the purse was snatched to Jackie's skillful intervention with the mop handle. By the time Officer Rivera was taking statements, Ashley had already uploaded the video to social media with the caption, "Jackie Chan stops purse snatcher with a borrowed mop handle. Real-life hero moment in LA today." The video would spread rapidly across platforms, gathering millions of views within hours. News outlets would pick up the story, praising Jackie's quick thinking and willingness to get involved when others stood. Bedouin commenters would marvel at how he maintained his skills despite his age, and how he used minimal force to resolve the situation. But in that moment, as the crowd began to disperse and the initial excitement settled, Jackie simply wanted to continue his peaceful afternoon. He provided his contact information to Officer Rivera, made sure Maria was okay, and tried to step away from the gathering fans seeking autographs and selfies. Kevin Smith sat in the back of the police car, watching the scene through the window. The reality of his situation was setting in, how a moment of desperate decision had led to public humiliation and arrest. And not just any arrest, but one that would likely go viral because of who had stopped him. As the patrol car pulled away, Kevin wondered how differently things might have turned out if he'd made better choices, or if anyone had ever reached out to help him before he reached this point. For Jackie, this incident was simply living his values, the same principles he'd tried to demonstrate throughout his career, both on and off screen. Help those in need, use your skills for good, show respect to everyone, avoid unnecessary conflict. These weren't just lines from his movies, but the code he lived by. As Officer Rivera finished taking statements and the crowd finally began to thin, Jackie glanced at his watch. The quiet afternoon he'd planned had certainly taken an unexpected turn, but as he walked away from the scene, politely declining further interviews and photo requests, there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing he'd made a difference for Maria Hernandez today. What Jackie couldn't know was how this small act would ripple outward, inspiring others who watched the video to reconsider their own responsibility to act when witnessing injustice. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come not from grand gestures, but from simple actions, like stopping a purse snatcher with nothing more than determination and a borrowed mop handle. Have you ever witnessed someone stepping up when others stayed silent? Or maybe you were the one who took action when it would have been easier to walk away. Share your experiences in the comments below. As the sun began to set over Los Angeles, casting long shadows across the bustling streets, the video of Jackie Chan's heroic intervention continued to spread across social media platforms with remarkable speed. What had started as a simple act of courage was quickly becoming a global phenomenon, with people from Tokyo to Toronto sharing, commenting, and drawing inspiration from what they witnessed. Back at his hotel, Jackie settled into a comfortable chair, rubbing his shoulder slightly, a reminder of old injuries accumulated over decades of stunt work. His phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, calls from his agent, and messages from friends who had already seen the viral video. Jackie smiled wryly as he set the device aside, preferring the quiet of the evening to the digital storm brewing. Online, a knock at his door interrupted his moment of peace. Outside stood Ryan Jenkins, Jackie's longtime friend and personal assistant, holding a tablet with the viral video playing on screen. "Jackie, have you seen this? You're everywhere!" Ryan exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Every news outlet wants an interview. Ellen's people called. "Good morning, America, The Tonight Show, everyone!" Jackie waved a dismissive hand. "It was nothing special, Ryan. Anyone would have done the same." "But that's just it. No one else did," Ryan insisted, scrolling through comments on the video. "Look at what people are saying. In a world where most people just record with their phones, Jackie Chan actually took action. You're inspiring people, whether you meant to or not." Jackie took the tablet, watching himself in motion on the small screen. The footage captured by Ashley Turner had excellent quality, almost cinematic in its framing. He watched his younger self move with practiced efficiency, the mop handle becoming an extension of his body as he stopped the thief. For a moment, pride flickered across his features, not for the attention, but for the fact that after all these years, his training remained ingrained, ready to serve when needed. Meanwhile, across town, at the Los Angeles Police Department's Central Division, Kevin Smith sat in an interview room, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and resignation. Across from him, Detective Michael Murray reviewed the case file, occasionally glancing up at the man who had unwittingly made himself famous for all the wrong reasons. "So, Mr. Smith," Detective Murray began, "you picked the wrong purse to snatch today." Kevin stared at the table. "I didn't know it was Jackie Chan. How could I know that?" "That's not really the point, is it?" Murray replied. "Whether it was Jackie Chan or anyone else, you committed theft. But I am curious, what drove you to this? Your record shows no prior arrests." Kevin's shoulders slumped further. "I lost my job 3 months ago, third one this year. Couldn't make rent, couldn't find work. I have skills, I'm a certified IT specialist, but nobody's hiring. Or at least, nobody's hiring me." He paused, swallowing hard. "I was desperate. My landlord gave me until the end of the week before eviction." Detective Murray nodded, making notes. "That explains it, but doesn't justify it." "I know." Kevin said quietly. When I saw that woman with the designer purse, something just snapped. I thought, she won't miss it and it might save me. Pretty stupid reasoning, huh? Before Detective Murray could respond, Officer Rivera knocked and entered the room. Sir, there's someone here asking about the suspect. Says he wants to help. Murray raised an eyebrow. Who is it? Jackie Chan, Rivera replied, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. Both men looked up in shock. Kevin's face paled. He's here? Why would he come back? Minutes later, Jackie entered the room, nodding respectfully to Detective Murray before turning his attention to Kevin. The thief couldn't meet his eyes, shame written across his features. Mr. Smith, Jackie began, his voice gentle but firm. What you did today was wrong. I know, Kevin whispered. I'm sorry. I believe you, Jackie continued, surprising everyone in the room. I've been thinking about what happened, about why someone would risk so much for a purse. Detective Murray leaned back, curious where this conversation was heading. Desperation makes people do things they normally wouldn't, Jackie said. I've seen it many times in many countries. Sometimes people need a second chance. Kevin finally looked up, confusion replacing embarrassment. Why are you here? To press charges. Jackie shook his head. Actually, the opposite. I wanted to understand your situation better, and if possible, to help. Detective Murray interjected. Mr. Chan, while your concern is admirable, this isn't a movie. We have procedures. I understand, Jackie nodded, and I'm not suggesting he shouldn't face consequences, but perhaps there's a better way forward than simply punishment. Across the city, Maria Hernandez arrived home to her modest apartment where her husband, Antonio Hill, waited anxiously with their 2 children. When she entered, he rushed forward, embracing her tightly. I saw the video, Antonio said, his voice tight with emotion. Are you okay? Maria nodded against his shoulder. I'm fine, better than fine, actually. Everything happened so fast, but Antonio, it was Jackie Chan. He got my purse back before I even realized what was happening. Their children, 7-year-old Zofia and 10-year-old Miguel, crowded around, eyes wide with excitement. Mom was saved by Jackie Chan? Miguel exclaimed. That's the coolest thing ever. Sophia tugged at her mother's sleeve. Can we meet him, please? Maria smiled, kneeling to her children's level. I don't think so, sweetie. He's a very busy man, and he already did so much for us today. Antonio guided his family to the couch, where news coverage of the incident played on their television. The anchor, Alejandra Santiago, reported, in an extraordinary display of everyday heroism, martial arts legend Jackie Chan intervened to stop a purse snatching in downtown Los Angeles this afternoon. The incident, captured on video by bystanders, has already been viewed millions of times online and continues to inspire praise for Chan's willingness to get involved when others simply watched. The screen showed the now familiar footage, followed by interviews with witnesses. Ashley Turner appeared, still visibly excited. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. One minute he was just walking by, the next he was in action, moving exactly like in his movies, but this was real. Alan Maldonado was interviewed next, holding his now famous mop handle. He just took it and said he'd bring it back. And he did. Jackie Chan borrowed my mop to fight crime. The street cleaner laughed, clearly enjoying his moment in the spotlight. Maria watched the coverage with mixed emotions. While grateful for Jackie's intervention, the public attention felt overwhelming. Her phone had been ringing constantly with calls from friends, family, and even reporters seeking interviews. Back at the police station, the conversation between Jackie, Kevin, and Detective Murray had evolved into something unexpected. Jackie listened intently as Kevin explained his background, his education, his work history, and the series of setbacks that had led to his desperate act. I was good at my job, Kevin explained, but when the company downsized, I was the newest hire, so I was the first to go. Then it just spiraled from there. Jackie turned to Detective Murray. Is there a program that could help him? Community service instead of jail time, perhaps? The detective considered this. For a first offense, with the right advocacy, it's possible. But he would need someone to vouch for him, maybe even offer employment. Jackie nodded thoughtfully. I'm in Los Angeles for the next 3 months filming. My production could use additional IT support. Kevin looked up in disbelief. You would help me? After what I did? Everyone deserves a second chance, Jackie replied, but not a third or fourth. This would be yours. Don't waste it. Detective Murray leaned forward. I'd need to discuss this with the DA's office, and Mr. Smith would still need to make amends to Ms. Hernandez. I want to, Kevin said. Quickly, I never meant to hurt anyone. I didn't see another way out. As they discussed possibilities, the media narrative continued to evolve. What had started as a simple story about a celebrity stopping a crime was developing deeper dimensions. Commentators began discussing societal issues, the desperation that drives crime, the bystander effect that prevents intervention, and the importance of community responsibility. The next morning, Thomas Hayes published a follow-up piece on his blog, moving beyond the initial excitement to explore these broader themes. While Chan's actions were undoubtedly heroic, he wrote, they also highlight a disturbing trend in our society. In a crowd of dozens, only one person, albeit a famous one, chose to act. What does this say about our collective willingness to help others in need? The article quickly gained traction, prompting discussions across social media platforms. People began sharing their own stories of intervention or times when they regretted not taking action. The hashtag #BeTheJackie started trending, encouraging people to step up in their own communities. By midday, Maria received an unexpected call from the police station. Detective Murray explained that the man who had stolen her purse wanted to apologize in person, with Jackie Chan facilitating the meeting. After discussing it with Antonio, Maria agreed, curious about the man who had targeted her and the strange turn of events that followed. That afternoon, in a small conference room, at the police station, Maria sat beside Antonio, facing Kevin across the table. Jackie and Detective Murray stood nearby, observing quietly. I'm sorry, Kevin began, his voice barely above a whisper. What I did was wrong, and I have no excuse. I was desperate, but that doesn't justify targeting you. Maria studied him, seeing not the threatening figure from yesterday, but a man broken by circumstances. Why my purse? She asked simply. Kevin swallowed hard. It looked expensive, designer label. I thought you could afford to lose it. He shook his head. It was stupid thinking. This purse was a gift from my husband, Maria explained. We saved for months so he could buy it for our anniversary. We're not wealthy, I'm a teacher's assistant, and Antonio works construction. Every nice thing we have, we work hard for. Kevin's face flushed with shame. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about you as a person at all, and that's the worst part. Antonio, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. Do you have any skills? What did you do before this? I'm an IT specialist, Kevin replied. Or I was, certified in network security and system administration. Antonio exchanged a glance with Maria before continuing. My construction company has been looking to upgrade their systems. The office manager mentioned needing someone with IT knowledge, but they can't afford a full-time position. Kevin looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. It wouldn't be much, Antonio clarified. Part-time work, maybe leading to more if you prove yourself, but it would be something. Jackie, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward, and combined with the temporary position on my film set, it could provide stable income. Detective Murray nodded approvingly. With employment secured and a formal apology made, I believe we can work with the DA on alternative sentencing, community service, restitution, and probation instead of jail. Time? Maria reached across the table, not quite touching Kevin, but extending her hand in his direction. Everyone deserves a chance to make things right. As they finalized the details of their unusual arrangement outside the police station, a small crowd of reporters had gathered. Word had leaked about Jackie's continued involvement in the case, and speculation ran wild about what was happening inside. Among the waiting journalists was Brittany Wyatt, a respected reporter known for her insightful coverage of social issues. When Jackie finally emerged, followed by Kevin, Maria, Antonio, and Detective Murray, she pushed forward with her microphone. "Mr. Chan, can you explain what's happening here? Are you pressing charges against the thief?" Jackie paused, looking to Maria and Kevin, silently asking permission to share their story. When both nodded, he addressed the gathered reporters. "Today, we're witnessing something more powerful than punishment," Jackie began. "We're seeing redemption and community. Ms. Hernandez and her husband have shown extraordinary compassion. Mr. Smith has expressed genuine remorse and a desire to make amends. And together, we've found a path forward that serves justice while recognizing our shared humanity." As cameras flashed and reporters called out questions, the unusual group stood together. Former victim and perpetrator, celebrity and citizens, law enforcement and community, united in a story that was evolving beyond a simple act of heroism into something more profound. By evening, this new development had added another dimension to the viral story. Social media discussions shifted from simply praising Jackie's intervention to examining deeper questions about justice, redemption, and community responsibility. The story that began with a mop handle and quick reflexes was transforming into a powerful narrative about second chances and the potential for change when people choose compassion over vengeance. Meanwhile, across Los Angeles and beyond, people continued to share and discuss the original video, unaware of how the real story was still unfolding, with its most important chapters yet to be written. For Jackie Chan, what had started as a simple afternoon walk had become an unexpected opportunity to demonstrate that his most important values extended far beyond the movie screen into the complex reality of everyday life. Have you ever given someone a second chance when others wouldn't, or received one yourself when you needed it most? These moments of compassion often go unfilmed, but can change lives just as dramatically as Jackie's viral intervention. 3 weeks after the purse snatching incident, the original video had amassed over 150 million views globally. What had begun as a simple act of heroism had evolved into something much larger, a cultural moment that sparked conversations about community responsibility, redemption, and the power of second chances. At Horizon Studios, where Jackie's latest film was in production, Kevin Smith arrived for his 3rd week of work. The temporary IT position had started as a simple gesture of goodwill, but Kevin had quickly proven his value, streamlining the production's digital workflows and solving persistent technical issues that had plagued the crew for weeks. "Morning, Kevin," called out Michelle Freeman, the production coordinator, as he passed her desk. "The editing team's having trouble with the rendering software again. Think you could take a look?" Kevin nodded, setting down his coffee. "On it. Probably another compatibility issue with their graphics drivers." As he made his way toward the editing suite, Kevin passed the main soundstage where Jackie was rehearsing a complex fight sequence. He paused momentarily, watching through the partially open door as the martial arts master moved with precision and grace, directing younger stunt performers through the choreography. Their eyes met briefly across the room, and Jackie offered a small nod of acknowledgement. Not the exaggerated recognition of a celebrity acknowledging a fan, but the simple respect between two people connected by an unusual circumstance. Kevin returned the gesture, before continuing to the editing bay, still sometimes finding it surreal that his lowest moment had somehow led to this opportunity. Across town, Maria Hernandez sat in the teacher's lounge at Westlake Elementary School, surrounded by colleagues watching a segment on the morning news. The story about Jackie Chan had evolved into a broader feature about community heroes and second chances, and Maria had agreed to be interviewed alongside Jackie and Kevin. "I still can't believe that's you on national television," said Rachel. "Smith, a fellow teacher's assistant, how does it feel to be part of something that's gone so viral?" Maria smiled thoughtfully. "Honestly, it's overwhelming. I never expected any of this. I was just a woman whose purse got stolen, but the way everything unfolded afterward, it's made me think differently about a lot of things." On screen, the interview showed Maria explaining her initial reaction to learning that Kevin would receive community service rather than jail time. "At first, I was skeptical," she admitted to the interviewer, "but seeing someone willing to take responsibility and make amends, that's powerful. And Mr. Chan helped me see that punishment isn't always the best path to justice." The segment cut to Jackie, sitting comfortably in a studio chair. "In my films, I often play characters who fight the bad guys and save the day," he explained. "But real life is more complicated. Sometimes the bad guy is just someone who made a bad choice in a difficult moment. True heroism might be giving that person a chance to choose differently next time." As the interview continued, the camera panned to Kevin, who appeared visibly uncomfortable with the attention, but determined to speak honestly. "What I did was wrong, period," he stated firmly. "There's no excuse for it. But when people like Jackie and Maria choose to see you as more than your worst mistake that changes something inside you, it makes you want to prove their right to believe in second chances." Back at the elementary school, the principal, Sarah Snyder, turned off the television as the segment ended. "Maria, I have to say, the way you've handled this whole situation has been remarkable. The school board is impressed too." Maria looked surprised. "The school board? They're developing a new community outreach program, mentoring at-risk youth, teaching conflict resolution, that sort of thing. After seeing your interview, they want you to consider taking a leading role in it." Maria's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm just a teacher's assistant. You're someone who demonstrated remarkable compassion in a difficult situation," Sarah corrected. "That's exactly the kind of person we need for this program." As Maria processed this unexpected opportunity, across the city, Alan Maldonado pushed his cleaning cart down the same street where the incident had occurred. The past few weeks had brought their own changes to the street cleaner's life. Local recognition had transformed him from an invisible service worker to something of a neighborhood celebrity. "Hey, it's the mop guy," called out a teenager, pointing enthusiastically. "Can I get a selfie?" Alan laughed, still not entirely comfortable with his newfound fame, but appreciating the way people now greeted him by name, acknowledged his work, and sometimes even helped by picking up trash rather than dropping it. His mop handle, the one Jackie had borrowed, now bore a small engraved plaque reading "Justice Tool," a gift from local business owners who had started referring to him as the Guardian of Fifth Street. "Sure, why not?" Alan replied good-naturedly, posing with the teenager and his famous mop. What none of them realized was that their individual stories were continuing to ripple outward, affecting lives far beyond their immediate circle. The hashtag #BeTheJackie had evolved into a movement, with people sharing stories of intervention, kindness and second chances from around the world. In Singapore, a group of martial arts students had started a community watch program, patrolling high-crime areas not to confront criminals, but to ensure elderly residents could shop safely. In Toronto, a tech company had instituted a hiring program specifically for people with criminal records, inspired by Kevin's story of redemption. In Mexico City, a teacher had developed a curriculum around bystander intervention, using the viral video as a starting point for discussions about civic responsibility. At a downtown community center, Detective Michael Murray sat facing a group of teenagers, most of them referred through the juvenile justice system for minor offenses. This monthly mentoring session had become one of the most rewarding parts of his work, particularly since the Jackie Chan incident had brought renewed attention to alternatives to traditional punishment. "So here's my question for you all today," Murray began, looking around the circle of young faces. "When you saw that viral video of Jackie Chan stopping the purse snatcher, who did you identify with in the story?" The teens exchanged glances, uncertain if this was a trick question. Finally, a young girl named Isabella Jackson raised her hand. "Everyone wants to say Jackie Chan, right? Because he's the hero. But honestly, I understood the thief more." Rather than disapproving, Murray nodded encouragingly. "Tell us more about that, Isabella." "My mom lost her job last year," she explained, her voice quiet but steady. "There were times when I thought about doing something stupid just to help with bills. I didn't, but I get how someone could make that choice if they felt trapped enough." Another, teen Zachary Graves, spoke up. "I identified with the bystanders, the ones who just watched. That's what most people do, right? Stay out of trouble, mind your own business." "And how do you feel about that choice now?" Murray prompted. Zachary shrugged. "I don't know. Before, I thought it was smart to stay out of other people's problems. Now I'm not so sure." As the discussion deepened, exploring complex questions about choices, circumstances, and responsibility, across town, Jackie Chan sat in a production meeting, reviewing footage from the day's shoot. Though focused on his work, part of his mind remained connected to the unexpected movement that had grown from his simple act of intervention. His phone buzzed with a message from Ryan, his assistant. "You need to see this." Attached was a link to a video compilation showing dozens of incidents from around the world. Ordinary people intervening to stop thefts, help strangers in distress, or defuse potentially violent situations. The montage ended with the simple text, "Inspired by Jackie Chan, be the one who acts." Jackie watched silently, his expression unreadable. When the video ended, the director, Daniel Russell, who had been watching over his shoulder, whistled. "Softly. Looks like you started something bigger than any movie we've made," he commented. Jackie shook his head slightly. "I didn't start anything. People have always had this capacity for helping each other. Sometimes they just need a reminder of what's possible." Later that evening, Jackie received an unexpected invitation. Maria and Antonio Hernandez were hosting a small gathering at their home. A thank you dinner for the unusual group of people connected by the incident. Despite his typically private nature, Jackie felt compelled to accept. The Hernandez apartment was modest but warm, filled with family photos and children's artwork. When Jackie arrived, he found himself in surprisingly comfortable company. Kevin Smith, looking healthier and more confident than the desperate man from the alley. Alan Maldonado, still somewhat starstruck but gradually relaxing. Detective Murray and Officer Rivera, out of uniform and at ease. And Thomas Hayes, the blogger whose thoughtful coverage had helped shape the public narrative. Maria's children, initially shy and wide-eyed in Jackie's presence, quickly warmed to him as he performed simple magic tricks he had learned for children's hospital visits. Soon they were showing him their martial arts moves, which he corrected with gentle guidance. Over a home-cooked meal, the unlikely group shared updates on their lives since the incident. Kevin spoke about his work at the film studio and the part-time position at Antonio's construction company, which had recently offered him more hours. "The systems upgrade I implemented saved them enough on operational costs that they could justify expanding my role," he explained, pride evident in his voice. "And I've almost saved enough to get my own apartment again." Alan described his plans to start a mobile cleaning service, leveraging his newfound local fame into a business opportunity. "People actually ask for me specifically now," he marveled. 20 years of being invisible, and suddenly everyone knows Alan with the famous mop. Detective Murray shared how the incident had influenced discussions within the department about alternative approaches to non-violent crimes. "We're piloting a new program focused on rehabilitation and community service for first-time offenders," he explained. "Your case has become something of a model, Kevin." As the evening progressed and conversations flowed, Jackie found himself observing more than participating, struck by the organic connections forming between these formerly unrelated individuals. What had begun as a random encounter on a city street had somehow created a small community, bound by shared experience and mutual growth. Maria's daughter, Sophia, climbed into the chair next to Jackie, clutching a school notebook. "Mr. Chan," she said shyly, "I wrote a story about you for school. Would you like to read it?" Jackie accepted the notebook with a warm smile. "I would be honored." The childish handwriting told a simplified version of the purse-snatching incident, but with an unexpected perspective. In Sophia's story, the hero wasn't Jackie Chan with his martial arts skills, but her mother, who had chosen forgiveness over anger, and Kevin, who had found the courage to change his path. Jackie looked up from the notebook to find Maria watching him. "She has her own take on heroism," Maria explained with a gentle smile. "And it's the right one," Jackie replied, returning the notebook to Sophia with a respectful bow that delighted the child. As the evening drew to a close, Antonio proposed a toast, raising his glass to the gathered group. "To unexpected connections," he said, "and to the reminder that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply choose to get involved." The group raised their glasses in agreement, each reflecting on how a split-second decision, Jackie's choice to act, Kevin's choice to steal, Maria's choice to forgive, had altered the trajectory of their lives in ways none could have anticipated. Outside, the Hernandez apartment, unnoticed by the gathering inside, a small but significant scene unfolded. A young man had been eyeing a parked car, testing the handles to see if any were unlocked. A woman walking her dog noticed his suspicious behavior and, rather than hurrying past, stopped directly in his line of sight and took out her phone, making it clear she was watching. The young man hesitated, looked at the woman, then at the car, and finally walked away. The woman, Heather Fisher, continued her evening walk, unaware that she had just embodied the ripple effect of Jackie's actions 3 weeks earlier. One more small choice to get involved, one more potential crime prevented, one more link in a growing chain of everyday heroism spreading across the city and beyond. As Jackie left the Hernandez home that night, thanking his hosts for their hospitality, he couldn't have known about this small incident or the countless others like it occurring, because of the example he had set. But perhaps he sensed something of it, the quiet power of individual choices multiplied across countless interactions, gradually shifting the balance toward a world where more people chose involvement over indifference, compassion over judgment, and action over apathy. The story that had begun with a purse snatching and a borrowed mop handle continued to unfold in ways no viral video could fully capture, not just in dramatic rescues or headline-worthy interventions, but in the small, daily choices of ordinary people inspired to remember their own capacity for heroism. Have you ever been part of a chain reaction of goodness? Sometimes the smallest decision to help can inspire others in ways we never see. What everyday heroes have influenced your life? 6 months after the purse-snatching incident, Los Angeles prepared for an unusual ceremony in Pershing Square. What had begun as a simple idea, honoring everyday heroes inspired by Jackie Chan's intervention, had evolved into a community-wide celebration of civic engagement and personal transformation. Colorful banners hung from lampposts, bearing the now familiar slogan, "Be the one who acts." A temporary stage had been erected at the north end of the square, where city officials, community leaders, and the individuals at the center of the viral story would gather to commemorate not just a single heroic moment, but the movement it had inspired. Behind the stage, in a small tent serving as a preparation area, Jackie Chan adjusted his tie, feeling slightly uncomfortable in formal attire. Despite decades in the public eye, he had never fully embraced ceremonial events, preferring the authenticity of unplanned moments to scripted speeches and official recognition. 5 minutes, Mr. Chan, called an event coordinator, poking her. Head into the tent. Jackie nodded his acknowledgement, taking a deep breath. When the mayor's office had first approached him about this ceremony, his instinct had been to politely decline. His intervention had never been about recognition or praise. But as the event expanded to include others, particularly Kevin, Maria, and the growing network of community initiatives that had sprung from their story, Jackie recognized that his participation served a purpose beyond personal accolades. Outside, the square had filled with several hundred people, some connected to various community programs being recognized, others simply citizens drawn by the story that had captivated their city and beyond. Among them, carefully coordinated by event staff, were individuals with their own stories of intervention and second chances, selected from thousands who had shared their experiences under the #EXB the Jackie hashtag. At the center of the crowd, Maria Hernandez stood with her family, still somewhat amazed by the trajectory of events since that fateful day. Her work with the school board's outreach program had expanded significantly, growing from a small pilot initiative to a district-wide effort connecting at-risk youth with mentors and support services. The purse that had been at the center of the original incident now sat in a display case in her office, a reminder, she often told visitors, that sometimes what seems like your worst moment can become the catalyst for your most meaningful work. Nearby, Kevin Smith chatted with colleagues from both the film production company and the construction firm where he now worked in a permanent capacity. The past 6 months had transformed him physically and emotionally, the desperate, haunted look replaced by clear eyes and confident posture. The community service hours mandated by his alternative sentencing had long since been completed. But Kevin had continued volunteering at a local tech training program for formerly incarcerated individuals, helping others navigate the challenges he understood all too well. Alan Maldonado arrived wearing a crisp uniform bearing the logo of Guardian Clean, the business he had launched with a small business grant from the city's economic development program. What had begun as a one-man operation had grown to employ 5 people, all hired from transitional housing programs. The famous mop handle, now encased in clear acrylic, served as the company's quirky mascot and conversation starter. Detective Michael Murray and Officer Stephanie Rivera represented the police department, which had implemented a new diversion program based partly on the resolution of Kevin's case. Early statistics showed promising results, lower recidivism rates, and higher community satisfaction compared to traditional punitive approaches for certain non-violent offenses. Thomas Hayes, whose blog coverage had helped shape the public narrative around the incident, moved through the crowd with his camera, documenting the gathering for a feature piece. What had begun as a simple viral story had become something of a specialized beat for Hayes, who now reported regularly on community initiatives and grassroots movements for positive change. As the ceremony began, Mayor Kimberly Day approached the microphone, surveying the diverse crowd with evident satisfaction. 6 months ago, she began, a simple act of courage on a downtown street captured global attention. Today, we gather not just to honor that moment, but to celebrate what grew from it, a renewed commitment to community, compassion, and active citizenship throughout Los Angeles and beyond. The mayor gestured to large screens, displaying a montage of news clips, social media posts, and video testimonials chronicling the Be the Jackie movement. Ordinary people intervening in situations where they might previously have walked past. Communities creating support systems for those in need, and organizations implementing programs focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment. What we've witnessed these past 6 months is nothing short of extraordinary, she continued. Crime rates in participating neighborhoods have decreased by 12%. Volunteer engagement has increased by 30%. And perhaps most importantly, thousands of individual connections have been made between people who might otherwise have remained strangers. As the mayor introduced the key figures from the original incident, each received warm applause from the crowd. When Jackie's name was called, the response was thunderous, not just for his celebrity, but for the example he had set that resonated so deeply. Jackie approached the podium with characteristic humility, waiting for the applause to subside before speaking. "Thank you," he began simply, "but I am not the hero of this story. I was just in the right place at the right time, and I did what anyone could have done." He paused, surveying the crowd. "The real heroes are all of you who chose to be inspired, rather than just entertained, who saw not just a viral video, but a reminder of our shared responsibility to each other." He gestured to Maria and Kevin, who joined him on stage at his invitation. "These are the true heroes, a woman who chose forgiveness over vengeance, and a man who chose redemption over despair. They remind us that heroism isn't about martial arts skills or dramatic rescues. It's about the courage to make difficult choices in ordinary moments." As Jackie, Maria, and Kevin stood together, an unlikely trio connected by chance and transformed by choice, the crowd rose in a standing ovation that echoed across the square. The moment captured something essential about the movement they had inspired. Not a simplistic narrative of heroes and villains, but a recognition of human complexity and the potential for growth, connection, and change. Following the ceremony, as attendees mingled and shared stories, Jackie found himself approached by Zoe King, a young filmmaker whose documentary about the Be the Jackie movement had recently been accepted to several prestigious film festivals. "Mr. Chan," she began earnestly, "I've been documenting the impact of your actions these past 6 months, and there's something I've been wanting to ask you." Jackie nodded encouragingly. "You've spent your career creating fictional heroes on screen," Zoe continued. "How does it feel to have inspired real-life heroism that exceeds anything in your films?" Jackie considered the question thoughtfully before responding. "In movies, the hero always wins. The story ends with problems solved and justice served." He gestured to the gathering around them. "But real life is more complicated and more beautiful. These stories don't end with the credits. They continue to unfold in ways we cannot script or predict." He pointed to where Kevin stood chatting with a group of young people from the tech training program. In a movie, he would be the villain, one-dimensional and easily forgotten. In real life, his journey may be the most heroic of all, because true change requires more courage than any stunt I've ever performed. Zoe nodded, recording his words carefully. "And what about the mop handle? It's become such a powerful symbol. Did you choose it intentionally?" Jackie laughed. "Pure coincidence, but perhaps there's wisdom in it. We often think we need special tools or skills to make a difference, when in reality we can use whatever is at hand, even a humble mop." As evening fell and the formal event transitioned into a community celebration with music and food, Jackie found a quiet moment to observe the gathering from a distance. What struck him most was not the scale of the event or the official recognition, but the countless small interactions taking place, strangers becoming acquainted, experiences being shared, connections being formed. Mayor Day approached, offering Jackie a cup of tea. "Quite something, isn't it?" she said, following his gaze across the square. "When I was first elected, I spoke about building community, but it always felt like an abstract concept. This," she gestured to the gathering, "this is what it actually looks like." Jackie nodded in agreement. "In my homeland, there is a saying, a single spark can start a prairie fire. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to act and others find the courage to follow." "Will you continue to be involved?" the mayor asked. "The programs we're launching could benefit from your ongoing support." "Of course," Jackie replied, without hesitation, "but not as the face or the name. These initiatives belong to the community now. My role is to support, not to lead." As the celebration continued into the evening, various participants from the Just Be the Jackie movement shared their stories, from a small stage set up for open microphone sessions. Among them was Melissa Cooper, a college student who had intervened when she witnessed racial harassment on a bus, and Jordan Rodriguez, a former gang member who now worked with youth in his neighborhood to provide alternatives to street life. Each story reinforced the central message of the movement, that everyday heroism was accessible to anyone willing to step forward when others stepped back. As Jackie listened to these testimonials, he reflected on the strange irony of his situation. Throughout his career, he had performed increasingly spectacular stunts in an effort to entertain and impress audiences. Yet the act that had perhaps made the most impact was one of the simplest, a spontaneous decision to stop a theft using nothing more than a borrowed cleaning tool. Near the edge of the gathering, Kevin Smith stood speaking with a reporter from a national news program. His journey from desperate thief to community role model had made him a compelling figure in the narrative that had captured public imagination. "If you could go back to that day," the reporter asked, "would you change? What happened?" Kevin considered the question carefully. "I wish I hadn't caused harm to Ms. Hernandez," he replied thoughtfully, "but I can't say I'd change what followed. Before that day, I was alone with my problems, convinced that no one would care enough to help. Being wrong about that changed everything for me." He glanced across the square to where Jackie was speaking, with a group of young martial arts students who had volunteered at the event. "We talk about Mr. Chan being the hero of this story, and of course he is. But there were many heroes that day. Ms. Hernandez, who chose compassion, Detective Murray, who saw potential where others might have seen only a criminal, even Alan. With his mop." Kevin smiled slightly. "Sometimes heroism is just recognizing the humanity in someone else, especially when they've given you every reason not to." As the evening progressed, Maria found herself increasingly drawn into conversations about expanding the school outreach program to other districts. What had begun as a modest initiative had proven remarkably effective, with participating schools reporting significant improvements in student behavior and community engagement. The key insight, Maria explained to an education administrator from a neighboring district, was recognizing that the same principles applied at every level, from children resolving playground conflicts to adults addressing community issues. It's about seeing problems as opportunities for growth rather than just situations that need controlling. Her husband, Antonio, who had taken on coordinating construction training programs for at-risk youth, nodded in agreement. "We've found that giving people the tools to build something, literally and figuratively, creates a sense of ownership and possibility that traditional disciplinary approaches never achieve." As they spoke, their children played nearby with others from the community, engaged in a game that seemed to involve reenacting the famous purse-snatching intervention, though with creative embellishments that made Jackie's actual moves seem restrained by comparison. Detective Murray watched the children's game with amusement, standing beside Officer Rivera at the refreshment table. "Kids always get to the heart of it, don't they?" he commented. "In their version, everyone works together to help the thief become a good guy. No punishment necessary." Rivera nodded, sipping her drink. "The department's diversion program statistics came in yesterday. Early results are promising. 70% reduction in reoffending among participants compared to traditional processing." "Not surprised," Murray replied. "Turns out people respond better when they're treated like they have potential rather than just problems." He gestured to where Kevin stood across the square. "Living proof, right there." As the celebration began winding down, Jackie prepared to make his exit, preferring to slip away quietly rather than draw attention. Before he could leave, however, Alan Maldonado approached, accompanied by his employees from Guardian Clean. "Mr. Chan," Alan began somewhat nervously, "we brought something for you." He nodded to one of his team members, who stepped forward, holding a carefully wrapped package. Jackie accepted it with a bow of thanks and opened it to find a beautifully crafted wooden mop handle, engraved with the words, "Sometimes the simplest tools create the greatest change." "It's not the original," Alan explained. "That one's in our office. But we wanted you to have this as a reminder of what you started." Touched by the gesture, Jackie gripped the handle, testing its weight and balance with the practiced assessment of someone who had wielded countless props throughout his career. "Perfect," he declared with a warm smile. "I will treasure this." As Jackie finally made his departure, walking quietly through the evening streets of Los Angeles, he carried the ceremonial mop handle over his shoulder, a humble symbol of an extraordinary chain of events. The irony wasn't lost on him that after decades of complex stunts and elaborate fight choreography, it was this simple act with the most basic of tools that might become one of his most enduring legacies. The next morning, as the city returned to its regular rhythms, evidence of the previous day's celebration could still be seen in Pershing Square, banners moving gently in the breeze, clean-up crews gathering the last of the event materials, and here and there, people wearing T-shirts bearing the "Be the One Who Acts" slogan. At a small cafe near the square, Thomas Hayes put the finishing touches on his article about the ceremony. Unlike his previous coverage, which had focused primarily on the narrative of Jackie's intervention and its aftermath, this piece explored the deeper implications of what had become a genuine social movement. "What began with a martial arts legend and a borrowed mop handle," he wrote, "has evolved into something that transcends celebrity or spectacle. At its core, the Be the Jackie movement isn't about extraordinary abilities or dramatic confrontations, but about the revolutionary potential of ordinary people choosing involvement over indifference, connection over isolation, and rehabilitation over retribution." He paused, considering his conclusion, then continued typing. "Perhaps the most powerful legacy of that viral moment 6 months ago isn't measured in ceremonies or statistics, but in countless small decisions made every day. The choice to see others fully, to offer help when needed, and to believe in the possibility of change, both in ourselves and in others." As Hayes submitted his article across the city, Jackie Chan boarded a private jet that would take him to his next film location. The ceremonial mop handle had been carefully packed among his belongings, not just a souvenir, but a reminder that sometimes the most significant impacts come not from our most spectacular efforts, but from our simplest choices. In the months and years that followed, the story of Jackie Chan and the purse snatcher would be told and retold, evolving as stories do when they touch something essential in human experience. Some versions would exaggerate the danger or the drama, others would focus on different aspects of the aftermath, but all would preserve the central truth that had resonated so deeply, that in a moment when most people chose to watch or record or simply walk away, one person chose to act. And in that choice lay a powerful invitation that continued to echo long after the viral video had faded from trending lists and news cycles. A reminder that heroism isn't reserved for legends or screens, but available to anyone willing to see a need and step forward to meet it, armed with nothing more extraordinary than courage, compassion, and perhaps, when circumstances call for it, a borrowed mop handle. As Maria Hernandez would often tell the students in her outreach program when they watched the famous video, the most important part of the story isn't what Jackie Chan did that day. It's what each of us chooses to do tomorrow. Have you ever had a moment where you chose to step forward when others stepped back, or witnessed someone else's simple act of courage change a situation completely? The true power of stories like Jackie Chan's isn't just in their telling, but in how they inspire us to write new chapters in our own lives. Moments where we discover that we too can be the one who acts.